I think Chuck Berry is one of the greatest songwriters in the world, one of the greatest rock and roll singers I've ever heard in my life. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest showmen.
I knew who he was. I was just putting...
Welcome to our channel. In today's video, we delve into the remarkable journey of one of rock and roll's true pioneers, Jerry Lee Lewis. Known for his electrifying piano performances and an unforgettable stage presence, Lewis redefined the genre with his unique style. His music, full of raw energy and passion, made an indelible mark on the history of rock and roll. But beyond the music, Jerry Lee's life was equally dramatic, marked by personal controversies and struggles that often intersected with his career. From his rise to fame to the scandals and challenges he faced, Lewis's life was anything but ordinary. Join us as we explore the highs and lows that shaped both the man and the music, revealing the untold story of an artist whose legacy continues to inspire today. Jerry Lee Lewis was born on September 29, 1935, in the small town of Ferriday, Louisiana. During the challenging days of the Great Depression, his early life was shaped by modest beginnings, where resources were scarce and survival was a daily struggle. Despite these hardships, Jerry's family recognized his extraordinary musical talent at a young age. In an act of unwavering belief in his potential, his parents made an incredible sacrifice. They mortgaged their farm to buy Jerry a piano. For a family already facing financial difficulties, this decision was monumental, but it also represented the deep faith they had in his musical destiny. This early investment in his gift would lay the foundation for a career that would ultimately change the face of rock and roll. Music ran deeply through the veins of Jerry's family. His cousins, Mickey Gilley, who would go on to become a successful country music star, and Jimmy Swaggart, a well-known televangelist, also played important roles in shaping the musical environment in which Jerry was raised. This close-knit family was surrounded by music, with influences of gospel, country, and early rock blending seamlessly into their lives. As they grew up together, the music they shared became a unifying force, one that would propel each of them into their own successful careers, though in different realms of entertainment. It's clear that Jerry's musical journey was not an individual pursuit, but rather one deeply rooted in the communal nature of family and faith. Jerry's musical education was anything but conventional. His early lessons took place in a world where learning was not formal, but rather a shared experience among family members. It was through these intimate personal connections that he absorbed the musical influences that would define his sound. Gospel songs, country ballads, and the early rhythms of rock and roll all swirled around him as he learned to play. These genres were not just music to Jerry. They were part of the fabric of his life, infused with the spiritual and cultural values of his upbringing. It was within this environment, surrounded by family and steeped in music, that Jerry began to develop his distinctive style. As Jerry honed his skills, his talent began to emerge in the local scene. He quickly became recognized as a musical prodigy, captivating everyone who heard him play. Whether it was the church choirs or local gatherings, Jerry's ability to play the piano with a passion and energy that was beyond his years set him apart. His early years in Ferriday were a crucible for his growth, not just as a musician, but as a performer who would one day be able to electrify audiences around the world. His rise from this small, humble town to the international stage was a testament to his natural gift, but also to the strong foundation of family, faith, and music that shaped him. As we look back at these formative years, it's clear that Jerry Lee Lewis wasn't just the product of his environment. He was its living embodiment. His family's faith in his talent, their sacrifices, and the musical influences that surrounded him from birth all played pivotal roles in his development. It was in Ferriday, Louisiana, Amidst these humble beginnings, that Jerry's journey into music began, setting the stage for a life that would be filled with groundbreaking performances, both on stage and off. As Jerry Lee Lewis's career skyrocketed, the adage, "Happiness is like a pyramid," comes to mind. Often, the higher you climb, the steeper the cost. For Jerry, the ascent to stardom was exhilarating, but it came at a significant personal price. Fame may have brought him fortune and recognition, but it also demanded the sacrifice of a simpler life, one where stability and security were no longer guaranteed. His relentless pursuit of musical success often meant trading off the very things that once grounded him: family connections, peace of mind, and the ordinary joys of life. Fame, in its grandeur, often isolates those who achieve it. And for Jerry, the higher he rose in the public eye, the further he drifted from the foundation of normalcy he had once known. At the heart of his pursuit was a burning desire to be recognized, to be revered for his musical genius. But this ambition came with an overwhelming cost. Every performance, every tour, every moment of attention meant more time away from the people who mattered most. Jerry's relentless focus on his career led to personal sacrifices, relationships strained, his mental and emotional well-being tested, and a growing tension between the life he was living in front of the cameras and the personal life that was slowly slipping out of his control. The world saw a rising star, while Jerry was often left grappling with the realities of the very fame he had longed for. The more Jerry Lee Lewis achieved, the more it became clear that fame would never come without its burdens. He climbed the ladder of success with the kind of energy and passion that was uniquely his own. But with every step upward, the cost was felt in the lives of those closest to him. This paradox of success is one that countless stars have experienced. The pursuit of dreams often comes with the loss of simpler, quieter moments, and the struggle to balance the demands of fame with the desire for personal peace. Jerry's climb was no different, and the weight of it would influence not only his life, but his art as well. Looking back, it's easy to see how Jerry Lee Lewis's early struggles with family, poverty, and the harsh realities of the Great Depression had a lasting effect on his later artistic choices. Music became a refuge, a place where he could express the pain, longing, and frustration that he could not escape in his personal life. Every note he played, every song he performed, was an emotional release, an outlet for the inner turmoil that sometimes accompanied his fame. His music became more than just a form of entertainment. It was a vehicle for emotional survival, a way for him to cope with the personal tragedies that would come to define much of his life. Through his music, Jerry found a way to endure the storms of scandal, heartbreak, and loss. His ability to channel his pain into his performances was nothing short of remarkable. For a man who lived his life in the public eye, often scrutinized and criticized, his music was a sanctuary, a place where he could regain control and remind himself of his purpose. The emotional intensity of his performances mirrored the ups and downs of his personal life, with the joy of success often tempered by the sorrow of loss and the weight of his mistakes. Yet, despite all the personal challenges, Jerry's resilience is evident in his ability to push through the most trying of times. Music was his constant, the one thing that never let him down. No matter how many personal tragedies he endured, whether it was the loss of loved ones, scandals that threatened his career, or the emotional toll of his personal relationships, his passion for performing remained unwavering. He didn't just survive, he thrived, using his art as both a shield and a sword, navigating the complexities of fame with a defiant energy that was unmatched. It was this very resilience that allowed Jerry Lee Lewis to endure the personal and professional storms that would come his way. His music, born from pain but infused with passion, became his saving grace. In the end, it was through his music that Jerry was able to reclaim his identity, reminding the world of the raw talent that first made him a star, even when the personal cost was steep. The journey of Jerry Lee Lewis is not just one of fame. It's a story of survival, artistic expression, and the unbreakable spirit of a man who never stopped playing, no matter what life threw his way. Jerry Lee Lewis's life was defined not only by his groundbreaking music, but also by his intricate family dynamics and personal struggles. Over the years, he fathered 6 children, each one serving as a testament to his deep yearning for kinship, family, and the legacy he hoped to leave behind. Despite the fame and the fortune that came with his career, Jerry's greatest desire was to create a lasting familial bond, one that would endure long after his musical days were over. Yet, as much as he sought to build this connection, it seemed that personal tragedy always lurked around the corner, forcing him to grapple with loss in ways that few could understand. One of the most heart-wrenching moments of Jerry's life came with the tragic death of his son, Steve Allen Lewis. At just 3 years old, Steve tragically drowned in a swimming pool accident in 1962. For a man known for his high energy and fierce drive, the loss of his young son was a blow that left an indelible scar on his soul. The grief from this tragedy would follow Jerry for the rest of his life, shaping the way he viewed both family and fame. While on stage he could command attention and rouse crowds with his performances, off stage he was a father struggling to cope with the unimaginable pain of losing a child. The loss of Steve Allen Lewis was not just a personal tragedy. It was a tragedy that defined his emotional landscape, influencing the man Jerry became and the artist who continued to pour his emotions into his music. This loss was not the only heartache Jerry would endure. In total, he lost 2 of his children, and each death left a profound emotional mark. For any parent, the loss of a child is an experience that defies words. But for Jerry, whose personal and professional lives were so closely intertwined, these losses carried even greater weight. The tragedies affected not only his emotional well-being, but also his career. Each time he faced the death of a child, he was forced to navigate through the storms of grief while maintaining the public persona of a rock and roll legend. The emotional toll it took on him was immense, but Jerry's resilience was equally formidable. Even as his personal life seemed to unravel, he found solace in his music, pouring his grief and pain into his performances. However, the emotional toll didn't end there. The complexity of Jerry's personal life only deepened as he faced the challenges of multiple marriages. Over the years, Jerry married 7 times, and each of these unions seemed to reflect a restless search for stability, love, and a sense of belonging. His relationships, though filled with moments of joy, were often fraught with turmoil, heartbreak, and public scandal. The whirlwind of marriages, divorces, and the pressures of his musical career created a volatile atmosphere that was difficult to navigate. Each marriage brought with it a new set of challenges: strained relationships, constant scrutiny from the press, and the emotional weight of balancing love, fame, and family. Jerry's career, which often took him on long tours and left him little time for domestic life, complicated his personal relationships even further. The constant demands of being a global star meant that he was often away from his family, leaving him with limited time to nurture the bonds he desperately sought to create. As a result, his children were frequently caught in the whirlwind of his public life, exposed to the harsh realities of fame at a young age. Despite the complexities of his personal life, Many of Jerry's children became involved in his career in some capacity, often working behind the scenes. However, their involvement was not without emotional cost. Being a part of Jerry Lee Lewis's world meant grappling with the intense pressures of his fame and the emotional turmoil that came with it. Throughout his career, Jerry's family was never far from the spotlight, whether through their personal struggles, their connections to him, or their own involvement in his musical journey. The emotional weight carried by his children, especially as they witnessed the toll of his public and private battles, was undeniable. Despite the hardships, Jerry's connection to his family was undeniable, even if it was often overshadowed by the chaos of his career. His music, fueled by personal pain and emotional depth, was in many ways a reflection of the tumultuous family life he lived. The echoes of his heartache could be heard in his songs as he channeled the losses, regrets, and love he felt into his performances. In the end, Jerry's family life was as complex and multifaceted as his music. The love, loss, and longing he experienced were all deeply intertwined with the emotional core of his artistry. His relentless pursuit of stardom came at a significant personal cost, but it was through his music that he found a way to keep moving forward, honoring the memory of those he had lost and the family he longed to protect. His story is not just one of fame and fortune. It is a tale of love, tragedy, and the emotional depths that shaped both the man and the artist. Jerry Lee Lewis's rise to fame began at Sun Records, where his career would take off in ways no one could have predicted. During his early days at Sun, he worked alongside some of the biggest names in music, Carl Perkins and Johnny Cash, two legends who would help shape the landscape of rock and roll. As a session musician, Jerry played a key role in crafting the sound that would define an era, contributing his dynamic, high-energy piano style to some of the most iconic tracks of the 1950s. It wasn't long before Jerry's own singles started making waves, with Whole Lotta Shakin Goin On and Great Balls of Fire becoming instant hits. These songs, with their irresistible rhythm and explosive performances, cemented Jerry's place as one of the genre's most electrifying figures. His unique approach to rock and roll was unlike anything that had come before, blending wild energy, soul, and an unmatched piano technique. As Jerry's fame grew, so did his reputation for being the wild man of rock, a title he embraced fully in both his personal and professional life. But the road to lasting success wasn't always smooth. In 1958, following the scandal that nearly destroyed his career, Jerry found himself in a period of professional and personal turmoil. His reputation had been tarnished by his controversial marriage to his 13-year-old cousin, which led to widespread backlash, particularly in the UK. The press attacks were relentless, and concert bookings dwindled as radio stations refused to play his music. Despite the massive public fallout, Jerry didn't let the scandal define him. He took his act to Europe, playing smaller venues and gradually rebuilding his fan base. While his American career had slowed, Jerry's raw talent and drive never waned, and it was in Europe where he began to revive his career. His performances were as passionate and electrifying as ever, with audiences there embracing his music and his eccentric persona. By the early 1960s, Jerry was starting to find his way back to the public's heart, but the road to redemption was far from easy. As the 1960s wore on, Jerry Lee Lewis made an important shift in his career. Recognizing that the rock and roll world had moved on, he turned to country music, a genre that was a natural fit for his unique style. This pivot marked a new phase in Jerry's musical journey, one that would eventually revive his career. With songs like Another Place, Another Time, Jerry was able to connect with a new audience, one that appreciated his blend of honky-tonk, gospel, and rock influences. His country music career blossomed in the late 1960s and early 1970s with a string of hits that found commercial success and critical acclaim. The songs he recorded during this time were stripped down, more reflective of his personal struggles, and in many ways, they marked a return to his roots. It was a revitalization of his career, showing that his artistry could transcend the boundaries of rock and roll. One of Jerry's most legendary performances came in 1964 with the recording of Live at the Star Club Hamburg, an album that captured the raw, primal energy of his live shows. This performance, with its relentless pace and explosive piano riffs, was hailed as one of the greatest live albums of all time. It demonstrated Jerry's ability to command an audience, with each song coming to life in a way that was impossible to replicate in the studio. The energy on that album is unmatched. His stage presence electrified audiences, and his music embodied the essence of rock and roll in its purest form. Live at the Star Club Hamburg became a testament to Jerry Lee Lewis's power as a live performer, with his music resonating with a deep, timeless energy that continued to influence future generations of musicians. It is no exaggeration to say that this album helped solidify Jerry's legacy, as it captured the very spirit of rock and roll. The 1970s were a turning point for Jerry, as he experienced a revival in his career that few could have predicted. Having successfully transitioned into country music, he enjoyed a resurgence in popularity, with several hit songs and albums. Tracks like Middle Age Crazy and She Even Woke Me Up to Say Goodbye not only climbed the country charts, but also became anthems of his era. By this time, Jerry had fully embraced his new identity as a country star, and the public responded warmly. The 1970s marked a period of reinvention for Jerry, as he found new ways to connect with his audience while maintaining the raw edge that had always defined him. His country albums, with their sparse production and heartfelt storytelling, reflected his personal journey and resonated deeply with listeners. These songs were a far cry from the high-energy rock and roll hits of his youth, but they showcased Jerry's versatility as an artist and his ability to adapt to changing times. By the end of the decade, Jerry Lee Lewis had not only survived the scandal of the 1950s, but had also reinvented himself as a respected and enduring figure in country music. His legacy, while shaped by controversy, was ultimately defined by his ability to endure and evolve. The 1970s were a time of artistic revival and personal renewal, proving that Jerry's talent could transcend trends and withstand the pressures of fame. His continued success in country music showed that Jerry Lee Lewis was more than just a rock and roll wild man. He was a multifaceted artist, capable of shaping multiple genres and leaving a lasting imprint on each one. This period of reinvention was a testament to Jerry's enduring spirit and his ability to adapt to the ever-changing landscape of the music industry. In 1958, just as Jerry Lee Lewis was on top of the world, an event would forever alter his trajectory and change the way the public viewed him. It was revealed that Jerry had married his 13-year-old cousin, Myra Gale Brown, a scandal that would haunt him for years. The marriage, which Jerry had believed was a personal matter, quickly became headline news and set off a firestorm of controversy. The revelation that Myra was not only his cousin, but also so young sent shockwaves through the media, especially in the United Kingdom. The backlash was swift and unforgiving. British fans, who had embraced rock and roll with open arms, were now turning away in disgust. Radio stations stopped playing his music, and concert venues canceled his shows, effectively blacklisting him from the European market. What had been a triumphant rise to fame now seemed to crumble in an instant as the scandal dominated headlines, painting Jerry Lee Lewis as an immoral figure, far from the innocent wild man of rock that the public had adored. The damage to Jerry's career was immense, and his reputation suffered irreparable harm. The public perception of him shifted dramatically, from a rock and roll icon to a symbol of excess and scandal. The very image that had propelled him to international stardom, the unbridled, rebellious spirit of rock and roll, now worked against him. What had once been seen as part of his charm was now viewed through a lens of moral outrage. His meteoric rise had turned into a steep fall, and the once invincible rock star found himself fighting to salvage his career. The impact of the scandal was not just personal, it was professional, as it shook the very foundation of his public persona. His tours were cancelled, record sales plummeted, and the future of his career was uncertain. For a time it seemed as though Jerry's greatest hits would be in the past, overshadowed by his controversial personal life. Yet, despite the public outrage and the damage to his reputation, Jerry Lee Lewis demonstrated remarkable resilience. Rather than fade into obscurity, he fought to reclaim his place in the music world. In the years that followed the scandal, Jerry continued to perform and record, proving that his musical talent was undeniable. His ability to withstand such adversity and keep performing showed the world that talent could, in fact, outweigh controversy. Jerry didn't shrink from the fallout. He pushed forward, determined to rebuild his career. His journey of reinvention began as he sought out new opportunities, recognizing that his rock and roll days might be behind him, but that didn't mean his music had to be. This period of reinvention saw Jerry making a bold pivot from rock and roll to country music. The shift was not just stylistic, it was a strategic move to distance himself from the scandal that had nearly destroyed him. Country music, with its roots in honesty, heartache, and redemption, provided Jerry with a fresh start, allowing him to connect with an entirely different audience. While his rock and roll fans had turned away, country music fans, who were more forgiving of his past, began to embrace him. The transition wasn't seamless, but Jerry Lee Lewis adapted, blending his rock roots with the soulful storytelling of country. It was in this new genre that Jerry began to find success again. His raw, unfiltered energy and emotive performances found a home in country music, where authenticity was prized. His new audience accepted him not as a scandalous figure, but as an artist with a story to tell. A story of redemption, resilience, and reinvention. The shift to country music marked the beginning of a new chapter in Jerry's career, one that would see him scoring hits and earning a place in the country music pantheon. His ability to reinvent himself, to find new avenues for his music, despite the scandal that had threatened to end his career, is a testament to his talent, determination, and unwavering commitment to his art. Jerry Lee Lewis's journey post-scandal wasn't just a comeback. It was a testament to his resilience, his ability to adapt, and his refusal to be defined by his mistakes. His story is a powerful reminder that even in the face of public backlash, a true artist can always find a way to rise again. Throughout his life, Jerry Lee Lewis experienced 7 marriages, each one a reflection of the complexities and contradictions that marked both his personal and professional life. His first marriage, at the young age of 16, was to Dorothy Barton, a preacher's daughter. The union was short-lived, lasting just over a year, but it was an early indication of Jerry's tendency to dive headfirst into relationships, sometimes without fully considering the consequences. His second marriage, to Jane Mitchum, was also brief, but marked by a whirlwind romance that ended just as quickly as it began. This was a time when Jerry was starting to gain recognition in the music world, and the pressures of a rising career likely played a significant role in the unraveling of his personal life. By this point, Jerry was already a rising star in rock and roll, but his marriage to Jane was a stark contrast to the wild, carefree image he projected on stage. The third marriage, to Myra Gale Brown. Tour is arguably the most infamous. It was a union that not only shocked the world, but almost derailed Jerry's career. Myra, who was just 13 years old at the time of their marriage, was his first cousin once removed, a fact that only added to the controversy. This marriage would ignite a firestorm of media backlash, especially in the UK, where Jerry's music had been embraced with open arms. The backlash led to cancelled tours, boycotted music, and a significant tarnishing of Jerry's public image. Yet, despite the scandal, Jerry and Myra remained together for 13 years, and they had 2 children together. Their marriage ended in 1970, amid allegations of adultery and abuse, marking the beginning of a series of troubled relationships for Jerry. Following the dissolution of his marriage to Myra, Jerry's fourth marriage to Jaron Elizabeth Gunn Pate was filled with tragedy. Jaron drowned just before their divorce was finalized, and the pain of losing her added to the emotional toll that Jerry had already been carrying. This marriage, like many of his others, was marked by turbulence, and the loss of Jaron would haunt Jerry for years to come. His fifth marriage, to Sean Stevens, lasted a mere 77 days before her tragic death, further deepening the emotional scars that Jerry had accumulated over the years. Despite the constant upheaval in his personal life, Jerry's sixth marriage to Carrie McCarver brought a semblance of stability. The two were married for 21 years and had a child together, Jerry Lee Lewis III. This period represented the closest thing to normalcy Jerry had known in his personal life. However, even this relationship eventually ended in divorce in 2005, demonstrating that despite his yearning for stability, Jerry's turbulent nature was difficult to escape. The complexity of his marriages, from the impulsiveness of his youth to the tragic losses later in life, paints a picture of a man whose personal relationships often mirrored the chaos and intensity of his music career. The emotional cost of these marriages was not limited to Jerry alone. His family, particularly his children, was deeply affected by the turbulence in his personal life. One of the most significant and painful chapters in Jerry's family history was his relationship with his daughter, Phoebe. Phoebe, who had been closely involved in her father's career, served as his manager and held power of attorney over his affairs. For years, she was a key figure in his professional life, helping to guide his career during some of his most difficult periods. However, in a dramatic turn of events, Jerry made the decision to sever his professional ties with Phoebe, cutting her out of his business dealings and personal life. The reasons behind this decision remain shrouded in mystery, with speculation abounding about what led to the breakdown of their relationship. Some suggest that the rift was financially motivated, with disputes over money and business decisions fueling the separation. Others believe that the shifting dynamics in Jerry's personal life, particularly with his new marriage to Judith, played a role in the decision. Whatever the reasons, the severing of ties with Phoebe marked a painful chapter in Jerry's life, one that had profound consequences for the entire family. Phoebe, who had once been her father's closest confidant, was now excluded from the very world she had helped build. This decision not only impacted their professional relationship, but also created emotional rifts within the family, with Phoebe's absence from Jerry's career, leaving a void that could never be filled. The impact of Jerry's personal struggles on his family dynamic cannot be overstated. His turbulent relationships, marked by impulsive decisions, heartbreak, and loss, created a foundation of instability that rippled through his entire family. Yet, despite the emotional cost of his personal life, Jerry's musical career continued to flourish. His ability to separate the personal from the professional allowed him to continue creating music that resonated with audiences, but it also meant that the emotional weight of his private life was often carried in silence. The struggles within his family were a reflection of the larger conflict that defined Jerry's existence. The tension between his desire for love, stability, and connection, and his inability to escape the chaotic, rebellious spirit that had fueled his rise to fame. Jerry Lee Lewis's contributions to rock and roll are undeniably monumental, and his impact on the genre continues to resonate today, more than 6 decades after he first exploded onto the scene. His innovative piano playing and dynamic stage presence helped shape the sound of rock and roll, and his work laid the foundation for countless artists who would follow. Jerry was not just a performer. He was a pioneer who pushed the boundaries of music, blending gospel, blues, and rock in a way that had never been done before. His fiery, unapologetic approach to music set the tone for what rock and roll could be: wild, free, and full of energy. As the genre evolved, so did Jerry's influence, shaping everything from the electric energy of punk rock to the emotional depth of country music. His songs, like Great Balls of Fire and Whole Lotta Shakin Goin On, continue to be iconic examples of what rock and roll was built upon. Beyond his solo success, Jerry's collaborations with other legendary figures further solidified his place in music history. He worked with some of the biggest names in the business, including Chuck Berry, Little Richard, and Carl Perkins. Each of these collaborations was a fusion of talents that not only shaped the evolution of rock and roll, but also showcased Jerry's versatility as an artist. Working with Chuck Berry, Little Richard, and Carl Perkins, 3 other giants of rock, was a testament to Jerry's musical genius and his ability to seamlessly integrate his style into the wider movement. His collaborations with these stars were not just musical partnerships. They were a moment of rock history in the making. Together, these artists created a sound that would reverberate across generations, laying the groundwork for the many musicians who came after them. As Jerry Lee Lewis's career progressed, his contributions were formally recognized through numerous awards and honors. In 1986, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, cementing his legacy as one of the founding figures of the genre. This recognition was not just a nod to his musical innovation, but also a reflection of his unrelenting influence on the music world. The Hall of Fame induction was a crowning achievement in a career filled with highs and lows, a testament to Jerry's resilience and the enduring power of his music. His influence extended far beyond the stage, shaping the sound and spirit of rock and roll for generations to come. Even as newer artists emerged, Jerry's impact remained a cornerstone of rock history, influencing musicians across various genres. In more recent years, Jerry's place in music history has only grown stronger. The admiration for his work continues to come from both old fans and new generations of musicians. In 2005, Jerry was honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Recording Academy, a recognition that celebrated his decades of groundbreaking contributions to music. This award, along with his continued performances and final albums, solidified his legacy as one of the most respected figures in the history of popular music. The honor wasn't just for his past achievements, it was a reflection of his continued influence on the music scene, even in the later years of his life. Jerry Lee Lewis may have been an icon of the past, but his music remained timeless, continuing to inspire musicians, producers, and fans alike. Jerry's influence didn't stop with the recognition of his peers. It reached deep into the next generation of musicians who were inspired by his rebellious spirit and musical talent. His impact can be heard in the works of modern rock, country, and pop artists who have adopted his raw, unfiltered energy and passion for performance. The flame that Jerry Lee lit in the 1950s continues to burn brightly, as younger artists look to his music for inspiration. The way he fused genres, His wild piano riffs and his unbridled performance style set the template for musicians who sought to combine artistry with energy. Jerry's music, whether it was the raw energy of his rock and roll hits or the depth of his country ballads, continues to be a touchstone for modern musicians striving to capture that same spark of creativity and authenticity. From his pioneering days at Sun Records to his later career in country music, Jerry Lee Lewis's influence on the music world is undeniable. His legacy, recognized by peers and fans alike, continues to thrive in the modern era. Jerry may have faced controversy, but his contributions to music are unassailable. His unique style and tireless work ethic created a legacy that remains integral to the history of rock and roll, and his impact on future generations of musicians is a testament to the timelessness of his artistry. Jerry Lee Lewis didn't just change the sound of rock and roll, he became a living legend whose influence will continue to echo through the music world for generations to come. Jerry Lee Lewis's health struggles were as intense and unpredictable as his career. In 1981, a near-fatal ruptured stomach ulcer brought him to the brink of death, a critical moment that served as a sobering reminder of his mortality. He survived, but the toll on his health was lasting. Over the years, he continued to face significant health issues, each one challenging his ability to maintain the rigorous lifestyle that had defined his career. Despite these setbacks, Jerry's passion for music never waned, and he pushed forward, determined to keep performing and recording, even as his body began to betray him. In 2019, Jerry suffered a stroke that forced him to cancel several performances. This health crisis was another blow in a life that had already been marked by countless struggles. Yet, like the true performer he was, Jerry refused to let this stop him. Despite the challenges, his spirit remained unbroken, and he continued to work, always finding a way to return to the stage or studio, proving that his drive and love for music were greater than any physical limitation. In 2020, Jerry returned to the studio, continuing to record and remind the world of his influence. His ability to adapt and create even in the face of physical decline spoke to his enduring legacy. Jerry's place in the rock and roll pantheon was never in doubt. His contributions to the genre were profound and permanent. His music continues to inspire new generations of musicians, and his impact on the music world remains as powerful as ever. Looking back on Jerry Lee Lewis's life, it's clear that his journey was as complex and tumultuous as his music. From his explosive rise to fame to the personal struggles and health battles that followed, Jerry lived a life filled with contradictions, passion, and resilience. He was both a product of his time and a timeless figure, one whose influence continues to echo through the decades. As we reflect on his legacy, let us remember not just the controversies and the scandals, but the groundbreaking artistry that defined his career and changed the face of rock and roll forever. Jerry Lee Lewis's story is one of perseverance, innovation, and a deep, unyielding love for music. Jerry Lee Lewis's life is a powerful mix of cautionary lessons and inspiring moments of musical brilliance. His story reminds us of the fragility of fame, the cost of personal choices, and the strength needed to overcome adversity. Yet, it's also a testament to the transformative power of music, as Jerry reshaped rock and roll with his fearless innovation, leaving an undeniable mark on the genre. His legacy is a complex one, filled with triumphs and struggles, but ultimately defined by his unparalleled influence on music and culture. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Jerry Lee Lewis's remarkable life. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing for more inspiring stories. Let's continue to honor the memory of Jerry Lee, a true pioneer whose passion and resilience continue to inspire musicians and fans alike, ensuring his legacy lives on for generations to come.